Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Jam Spot Pod. We are with Dylan today, otherwise known as Dylan and the Moon, a very good friend of mine that we've wanted to get on here for a while now. So finally you're here.
I am here. It's very nice to be down here in Oxted.
Yeah, we're at the Ginistry again. Shout out to Andrew and David at the Ginistry for letting us use their space. Amazing establishment. And Phil's with me here too as well.
I am, the ever-present.
Hello, Philip.
Hello.
How are we?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes. So, as usual, you can catch us on our socials at the Jam Spot Pod. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff.
But not Twitter because, or
we're
X,
suspended.
We are banned.
We are suspended. Howard Webb has done his filthy work.
It's called VAR.
VAR is currently looking at our account.
I don't think it's a bad thing to be suspended from Twitter.
To be honest.
Is it the place to be? I don't know about that.
I don't know.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, old Elon's taken it and I mean...
turned it into a bumhole. I'm not. Oh wait.
That's a great start.
Sorry, I should have. I don't know. We do. I know it's not a swear word, but do you swear?
You can swear on it.
Brilliant,
yeah,
fantastic.
that's fine. I've dropped.
I swear like
many
a sailor.
swear.
So
yeah. This is like being at the
into
pub.
a bumhole.
Yeah, it just is, isn't it?
It's
just, I don't know.
The bumhole or social media.
It really is. It's where you find all those people, isn't it, who just love to just hate on other people.
Yeah, I found it's a very spiky place.
Yeah,
isn't it? Either that or what is it? The whenever you look in the comments section, it's always someone advertising their OnlyFans.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I just wanted to see the scores.
Does that not say more about your search history though?
It might do. We'll edit that one out. I'll be dead. But yeah, no. So as usual, you can catch us on all the usual socials and all that stuff, as I mentioned before. Also, feel free to click the like and subscribe, comment, and all that stuff, because it basically just helps us to expand the pod as much as possible, and we can get more guests like Dylan. So that'd be amazing. So without further ado, shall we begin? Let's begin. Cheers.
Cheers. Big old cheers.
Have you got your... What are you drinking?
No.
What's wrong with you?
Well, I finished my coffee and then
Phil.
the bar lady left.
The bar lady. Oh, I've got to shout her out, by the way. She made this wonderful cocktail here. It's actually alcohol-free.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
With potpourri in it.
With potpourri in it, yeah. It's very fancy.
Yeah,
it's a bit too fancy for me, to be honest. Like, as in, it's lovely. Don't kill me. She happens to be my girlfriend as well. We'll edit that bit out as well. As you can see,
Timestamp this. Isn't
I'm
it?
used to just fucking everything up with this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on swiftly. Dill,
Yes.
how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
You good?
Yeah,
You
I'm
good?
like settling into this now, and now I don't feel like it's going to be an interrogation. Before I was unsure. Now I know. I'm safe.
It's not quite Piers Morgan, you know.
No, thank God.
Can you imagine?
He's a bumhole as well, isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. Just a bit. So I was going to say, first thing to start with is your new single.
Yes.
At the time of writing or podding or whatever you want to call it, you released it last Friday, right?
Yeah, so at the time of podding, it dropped last Friday, which was about 4 or 5 days ago. But when this comes out, I think it'll be around a month ago. Yeah. But as you asked, I actually wrote it 8 years ago. How wild is that?
I didn't know this.
Yeah, I was going to text you about it the other day, but it's something I composed the chorus to 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's been stuck in my head for 8 years, like roaming around. And if you guys do go and check out the song, do it at your own peril, because it is like it is actually almost like frustratingly catchy. I've had many messages with mixed reviews from friends of mine that are like, "This song is so catchy, I hate it." But like it's so joyful. I feel like you can't help but love it a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like me, like it's easy to hate or love. I don't know.
Well, it's got to have something about it if you've had it in your head for 8 years.
Yeah.
And you went, I want to do something with that track.
Yeah. So it's called Nice Day, and I wrote it about a heartbreak. But like, I grew up on a lot of stuff like The Cure, and I found that they had a really good way of having kind of low point lyrics with upbeat music, and I love that combination.
But like, the Smiths were probably
the
connoisseurs of that, weren't they?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that way of telling sad stories, because it doesn't always have to be. I do write a lot of sad songs as well, but it doesn't always have to be that kind of like grounding, like let's all just bring it down. So I wrote this song, and it's called Nice Day, and it came to me. I was being broken up with. And then the girlfriend at the time, we'd had this wonderful day. We'd had a really nice time. We were in a park. The whole thing had been going successfully, and it kind of blindsided me. She was like, I think we need to like stop doing this. Like we need to break up. And
What?
my response was, why did you have to ruin a really nice day?
Yeah.
And it stuck with me. I was like, that's just. I feel like we've all experienced that. We've all been like kind of.
I'll just say what
blindsided.
we're all thinking. What a bumhole.
What a bumhole! Yeah,
The word of the
if you're
day, that,
listening,
isn't it?
babe, you a bumhole. But yeah. So that's where the concept came from, and it never left my head. So throughout the years, I've picked it up and tried to reconsider how I could make it with the production I was working with at the time, and it never really found its home. And one of those reasons being because obviously I don't know your listeners. Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm also a transgender man. And throughout the beginning of my career, obviously I had a very different sounding voice, and there was a lot of my music which, when I would sing it, it sounded quite cringe because my voice was high, and in my head as a man, I was like, this is jarring to listen to. Yeah. So although Justin Bieber as a teenage boy sounded wonderful, I continue to sound like now through my sweat. That's how it sounded to me. And I was like, it feels to me like my voice hasn't broken. It was quite a problem. So if I sang a catchy melody, it always sounded more irritating to me, like a jingle or something. Okay. So after transitioning and, my voice has now changed, I went back and revisited a load of old songs. And when singing them again, I was like, finally now sounds eligible to be part of the pack of like my music, and it's now finally sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's quite interesting actually, because when you're writing a song, I suppose like you have an idea of what the vocal is going to sound like in your head, and if that is a completely different voice to what's going to come out, that's quite frustrating. I mean, I kind of have the opposite problem, right? Because I've always had a very deep sort of toned voice, and I've got no range apart from down there or right up there. There's no in between.
I'm literally the same.
I've got nothing in between. So like, it's kind of the opposite frustration for me, because I want it to be sort of mid-range to high vocally, but I can't. So I have to sing everything down here and then get someone else to sing it. Yeah.
And it's something you would like to be able to hear, and then it just never really materializes.
No.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's exactly that.
So how much lower is your voice now? We were having this discussion before. How much lower is it now than it was pre-transition?
In musical terms, I would say, I don't know, 6-7 semitones down. And I can sing, like, that's my talking voice kind of in that range. Yeah. But all the songs that I written and released before, I can now sing them easily in the octave below. So I can keep it in the same key and now just sing it an octave below, which is really fucking cool, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when we've been doing gigs together, again, this is a bit of information. I play bass for you.
Yes, he does very well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I was going to be mean, but actually, you are very, very good.
He's all right.
Don't hire this guy.
Ed's going like that. But I've noticed that obviously you often do duets with yourself and stuff like that. How does it feel to be able to do that? And see how far you come?
That's an interesting question, and it actually has a fair few answers. I have days where it's so interesting to me and it's really unique and I'm very proud of it, and it's like, actually I can make this piece of content that a lot of people can't. Because not a lot of people have been through that kind of experience. And then when I first started making it, it was kind of a struggle to bring myself to be able to look at the footage and see myself side by side. So what Henry's talking about is obviously as a musician, I've been a musician for a really long time. I have a massive collection of old videos and audio recordings of my voice before. And I decided that I would duet them, either singing an octave below or harmonizing, and put the video side by side so you can kind of see and hear the differences.
That's a cool idea.
Which is, it's...
It is so cool, honestly.
And sometimes because I made them quite a long time ago, when I now see one resurface because someone's commented on Instagram or something, I'll watch it as an observer. And I'm like, actually, fucking hell, it's actually quite a cool piece of content. And I'm proud that I did it, like stepped through the fear of doing it. Because when I was making them, there were so many times when I was like, I'm not putting this out. It's so vulnerable. And initially when I transitioned, I wanted to sort of let go of the history of my life as a whole, as everyone knew it. I was like, I want to move forward as Dylan, and I only want to be known as Dylan, and I want to remove everything from the internet. I want to take it all down and just forget it ever existed. But then when I was moving through my transition, it was so interesting to me how that fear and the ego I had around it all fell away. And the more I became myself, the more accepting I was of my old self, who it wasn't their fault. That they were in a body that they didn't understand, and it wasn't my fault that I had this voice that I couldn't control and make sound how I wanted. And actually I had massive empathy for previous me, and it was easier to integrate and watch and be proud of it. So both. It was a lot of emotions, really.
It's quite interesting that you used the word they then, because do you, like, you're talking about a whole different person. Well, I know in effect it is a different person, but it's still you in your own head.
Yeah.
Do you see it as two different people?
What's interesting about that is I don't see it as two different people. It is definitely me, but for other people to understand the removal of it, I would say something like that. And also, this is pretty vulnerable, but I would still struggle to say she, because for me, I've always been a man, and I've in my head it's always been he, him, and this guy and this dude, and that has been my life. So for me, I still can't look back at my previous self, even though at that time people did address me that way, and say she, because it always just rubbed me up the wrong way, because I was like, well, no, I'm not. So I would say they, like them as a person.
I remember you saying this to me, and I hope you don't mind. We can always edit this out if
That's
this is too personal, but I remember you saying you received a birthday card.
Yeah.
To my sister.
Yeah.
And it felt all kinds of wrong, right?
Yeah, right. There's actually...
And that's when I finally understood what you were going... Well, understood as much as I can, obviously. You know. But that's when I sort of realised, okay, that's starting to make sense now. That makes sense.
Yeah, and what's cool about that is it's actually on video as well. So it was it must have been about 5th or 6th birthday, and my parents are filming me sat on the bed opening presents and cards and whatever, and I open up a card from my older sister, and I open it up, and it says, to my youngest sister, and I read it out, to my youngest sister, and I just look up deadpan in the camera, and I say, but I'm your youngest brother.
Oh wow!
And in that moment,
even at that age,
I knew, like I knew the whole time, like very, very strongly knew as well. But in that moment, what is really sad is in the video, you can hear that no one says anything.
Right.
No one. I mean, and I don't blame anyone because kids say weird shit all the time. Oh, I'm a penguin. Like, yeah, I get it. Kids say weird stuff. So I can understand that they might have just assumed that I'm using the wrong word, or they're taken aback by it as well. But what is sad is that you can see that kid has said something vulnerable about themselves, like, I'm your youngest brother, meaning it like authentically, and because you don't get the reaction, it feels like that is an unsafe thing to say. So from then I internalized, well, it's not safe for me to be that. I have to stop saying that stuff, because no one's like accepting or loving of it, which now is not the case at all, because my parents are absolutely fucking wonderful, as is my sister. But that bit of video footage was so mad to unearth and find, because it's something that I say on podcasting and interviews, like, I've always known I'm a guy, but to actually have the video evidence and be able to say to someone like who doesn't believe that you can know that, I'm like, I fucking knew that. And I said it.
It really opened up my eyes, because I always tried to understand your situation as much as possible, obviously, but it wasn't until you told me that story where I was like, like, that makes sense. I understand. I feel like I understand, at least. Obviously there's still always a lot of learning to do, but I get it. That makes sense. And how does it feel now?
Amazing.
Yeah, that's literally what
just jump straight in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be more specific, but overall, whatever you're about to say,
you seem so much more comfortable as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so much happier, and I can't speak for everyone, but when you live years and years of being someone inauthentic, and that doesn't even have to be trans, like you could be in a marriage that you don't like, or in any way in a job that you hate. When you spend so long doing that, it really wears you out and wears you down, and you put on a brave face, and no one around you might know the way you feel, but you just try and keep a happy smile on. And then when you finally get the new job, leave the relationship, transition, you realize how much happier you can be, that you almost forgot how life could feel so good. So now and this isn't even an arrogant thing, but I wake up now and I look in the mirror and I'm like, fucking yes, it's you. Like, I've been waiting so long to see you, that now it's harder for me to have bad days, because I'm like, well, let's just go look in the mirror. This is how far you've come, and like, that's quite nice to fall back on.
That's amazing. I think what you've outlined as well in whenever you've spoken online, when you did your stuff, which we'll come to with Project Icon and stuff like that, is the positivity that you feel. And I think that's really important. I've learned so much just from watching your journey and how positive it's been for you. Obviously there's going to be some points where you feel low, or you're worried. Like, for instance, if you're worried, I think you worried, didn't you, about your voice not coming back and stuff like that?
Tremendously. It was a big. It was a big
that was
deal.
A huge thing, because I remember you wrote the song, right?
Yeah, I wrote a song all about it.
And I remember you playing that to us in rehearsal, and we were all like, wiping the tears away. Like, it was pretty intense. Actually, tell us more about that. Well, that must have been a worry.
Yeah, I mean, that was a worry. And to go back to the very first thing you said, the reason why I think it's important to bring it up on podcasts and in magazines and all that stuff is because we see a lot of I don't know why I've made this really heavy and dark at the beginning of your really fun podcast, but here we are.
It's great.
We'll get more excited and funny by the end. All the sob story will be over. But like we see a lot of like rhetoric and stories and narratives about the queer community and the trans community and stuff, and it's always it can be quite negative, and how much of a struggle it is, and sometimes with like, people in power now like are quite derogatory actually sometimes, and it's very actually disgusting and hurtful and causes a lot of pain for a lot of people. So I think it's really important that we actually tell stories of pure joy as well. And like you say, I've had my ups and downs like everyone does, but for the most part my story was one of joy and celebration and liberation. And I think it's important that younger people and the older people can see that and know that it isn't a struggle, because it's still a big story that, sexuality, for example, some people really struggle to come out as gay because they see that it's like a big deal to do it and you might lose friends, and which is true. But there's so many stories where people are like, oh, I'm gay, and they're like, yeah, cool, who isn't? You need to be able to tell all the stories. So that's why
I think it's just become a lot more normalized now, isn't it? That stuff, whether that is media coverage, I don't know, or I'm not sure.
I think generally it's just progressive.
Just more awareness of an understanding of people, and I'm not sure.
But the song was a big deal. The song that Henry's referencing is a song of mine called Tomorrow's Too Late, and it kind of is what it says on the tin. I started worrying about going through my transition, taking testosterone, which, if you don't know, changes the shape of your body, and it also changes the thickness and the length of your vocal cords. So before my voice was quite high, and now it's obviously a general man's range. But there's not a lot of research or resources online to talk about what that would do for a singer and how it changes your voice. Obviously, we all know a voice drops, but I didn't know whether I would lose the clarity, the quality, the ability, or like whether the stamina would go down or anything like that. So I was really fucking worried, because music had been the only place in my life where I'd ever been able to find sort of hope and joy, and the idea of that only safety net being taken away was terrifying. However, I knew that it was more important to me to live every day not feeling like I kind of hated myself, and be authentically me as I am now. And if I had to lose the music through that, then it was a choice that I had to make, which was a really big deal, because
it's incredibly big deal.
It was just so decision. Hard. But so the night before I started taking testosterone, all that to say, I wrote this song, and I could, you probably experience this as like writers as well, but when you have an emotion, I find I'm not always very good at communicating that with speaking to someone, but I can just feel like energy inside me. So I went and sat down at a piano, and I just put my hands on a chord, and whatever the chord it was, you'll probably know more than me. I don't know, A minor was it?
A minor, yeah. It was,
And the words just came out almost the entire song. The opening line is, in case we lose it all, my love, remember that we did it all for us to live the life we dreamed about. And I was just like, it was like an inner version of me was talking to me. And I was I was just a conduit for like bringing the song to life. And it was like some inner child that was like, just, in the future, remember we did it to live the life we dreamed about. So yeah, it became.
You know what I love about it as well is that you could see that as kind of like a kind of love song to yourself, effectively.
Yeah.
But it works on so many levels, and why it works so well. And this is one thing I think about your music in general. Not to keep blowing smoke up your ass.
That's why I keep going.
But you make it relatable for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not just about, you don't just write in a perspective where it can only ever be about you. I could take those lyrics and I could apply that to my life. I'm sure you could as well. It's quite a unique thing to be able to do.
Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
I think anyway. I mean, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I mean, there's a reason why I'm playing bass.
Yeah. It's interesting. I found that was something I started doing quite early. Yeah. And do you know the initial reason I started doing that? Again, I'm going to be vulnerable because why the fuck not? The initial reason I started doing that was because I'd written a song in school, and it was like the first time I'd ever really written something. And it was very personal and very about me. And it was actually called Misconception, but broken up misconception, right? Okay, right. And it was basically a trans narrative about being this person that people saw as someone else. Like, did you know when you were looking at her, you were looking at me, was the story. And I wrote it, and it was very vulnerable, and I played it to a few friends, and they were like, is this about you? What are you talking about? And I was like, no. Obviously, right. I'm never going to do that again. So what I did, so it was actually a way of protecting myself by converting it into something for other people rather than being this noble way of like for everyone else. However, very quickly I realized that it was much more valuable for other people. So I wrote a new song and I turned it into like a we story. Not a we story, that's not a story about we's, just a you and me, us story, right? Okay. And anyway so now
you're in the chart.
All that. Now what I do is I will come up with a concept. Like I had a song that you've played on called Lights Come Down.
Yes.
And initially it's sort of, the lyric was, someone hold me when the lights come down, hold me when the lights cave in, which is nice and applicable. But what I wanted it to do was touch more people and say, I'll hold you when the lights come down, I'll hold you when the walls cave in. Because I think it's I don't know, I think, like you say, if you write something that comes from a you place, but then make it accessible to other people, I think it's the sweet spot of music, isn't it, really? And that's what a lot of the greatest songs on earth are.
I was going to ask, actually, because it's just interested me, like when you initially started writing songs, obviously feeling like a male but being a female, from what perspective would you write a song from?
Always from a male perspective. So I used to write about women, because I've only ever been into women as well, so I used to write songs about girls and from that perspective. But what was always really frustrating for me was at that time people viewed me as a girl, so it sounded like a gay love song, right? And it used to just jar me so much, because in my head I was like, this is a big burly man, with a cowboy hat and a beard, singing about his love, but it never sounded like that. It just sounded like a little queer anthem. So that, I mean, and that is also why I started taking all pronouns out of stuff, and it became about you and me and we and us, rather than ever being about her and him and these
ironically
things.
It's almost as if your need to get around those things has actually fueled something that's become really universal.
Lucky me.
I know it sounds really messed up in that way, doesn't it?
It does, but it has kind of it worked in my favour.
Often it's out of those situations that are the most difficult to deal with that the best things happen, right? And it's it's kind of a remarkable thing, really, when you think about it.
Thanks, mate.
It's kind of cool. I just think it's a real it's a testament to not only your ability to do that now, but also your willingness to try and to push on, and, and not just throw the towel in and go, oh, I'm not gonna be that, so fuck it. I mean, you will both know this as well. As musicians, you go through many highs and lows in your life where you're like, I'm throwing it in, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing it, I can't. This week I probably said it
5 times already this week.
This morning.
Now actually. But you also then will spend 2 days doing something else before you're drawn back into the thing that you do, because you'll come up with a bass line, or there's a melody, or you heard Phil was tapping his coffee cup a minute ago and you were having a little dance to it and started basing with your mouth. And it's like we can't actually ever escape it. So we are here.
It's inherent in it. It's just one of the things, like you said, it's just naturally in you. It's just like anything, just like if you're an artist or you're a singer, like no matter how much you say, oh, I'm quitting, you can't quit, because it's just in you.
I full on tried to quit last year, as you know.
I know, he left my band and everything. It's so sad.
I remember being quite emotional about it.
I remember you telling me, I'm going into, what was it? I'm off. Web developing.
Law.
Yeah, web developing. Law. Web developing. I tried everything.
Tried everything.
A friend of mine, Alex, said to me, right, let's, all right, you're giving up, so we're going to do a bit of busking for, to finish it in Portugal. I did 2 weeks and I was like, I'm not fucking leaving.
It's a Wolf of Wall Street type moment.
And I was just you just can't escape
One of us.
Once you do it, you can't escape it. And
definitely not.
You realise that you can have all the money in the world.
I mean, you've got to look at people still touring, like Paul McCartney and Willie Nelson. They're still going. It's like 92.
Crazy,
and he ain't giving up.
My parents the other day went to see the Cast-Off Kinks, and there's 2 original members from the Kinks band in it.
Oh, really?
And my mum and dad were like, they literally just had the bass cab guitar that they just rolled on, no backing track, no nothing, just drums, guitar, bass, and singer, and they clearly just still love it. And you're like, they were playing a fairly medium-y small venue in Cornwall, but they clearly just love it so much they're still doing it. Probably 60-year-old, 70 years old.
It's quite weird
or
to be in your own tribute band, isn't it?
Yeah,
strange.
It's like, mind you, I think Bruce Foxton from The Jam
Yeah, really?
He's in a Jam tribute band.
No way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I suppose he knows all the songs already.
Yeah.
How would you feel about playing my songs until you were 70? I don't know if you...
Actually sounds quite fun. As long as I keep getting to change a bass every 5 minutes.
So kind of talking about tributes and stuff and various bands. What kind of stuff was you into growing up? What was your...
Great question. My mum loved melody so much. She didn't really care too much about the lyrics or the band or anything else apart from if it was catchy, it would be on. Okay. So like ABBA, Bob Marley,
love ABBA.
The Four Non-Blondes, like the Cause, anything she could sing along to. She didn't care who it was.
Well, they were Genesis fans as well, weren't they?
But they were, yeah. So then my dad was really big into Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and David Bowie, Queen. So like rocky, but like lots of musicality and great lyrics. Mm-hmm. And then their sort of like crossover where they both found peace and love and joy. It's like Talking Heads, Blondie, and like Genesis.
Right.
And so, The Cure and the Beach Boys were my personal kind of favourites that I lean towards. And then when I started to develop my own musical taste, I think the first thing I bought was songs about Jane, Maroon 5.
Mate,
I really loved.
That is an album.
That's
such a good album.
That brings me such memories.
Yeah.
That album,
my sister brought it back for me on, one of those rewritable discs.
Right.
And
you were pirating music as a musician.
I was indeed, and I learned. First thing I learned was like Harder to Breathe. I think because it was the rockiest one.
Yeah,
banger.
Great
mate.
tune.
Yeah, I remember that summer. I was 15, 16.
Yeah,
and a mate of mine was he just basically lived at my house for the whole summer, and I taught him how to play like a bit of bass and like that album, that and the Killers. Hot Fuss was just on constantly, just on repeat, and we just learn stuff. And then we started a band kind of based around that. I was like, if you can play a bit of bass, a mate of mine turned up, and I had an electric kit at the time, and he came around. He never picked up a pair of sticks in his life. He just come around and started playing it like naturally. I was like,
that's mad,
have you ever played
cool.
before? And he was like, no, I just kind of know how to do it. I was like,
that's great.
It's like
we got a band on the go, you know. But,
come out of the womb playing.
Yeah, really strange. But what an album that was. Loved
it was great. Yeah, it's not cringe. Like I feel like a few of my friends have got really cringy first albums, and I'm always quite grateful to be like, it's quite cool actually.
I'm trying to think the first mixtape I bought. That's how old I am.
Yeah,
it was a tape. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember for the life of me.
I think the first tape I had was "Living La Vida Loca."
Oh yeah, banger tune.
Yeah, I was saying this though. Have you noticed how like we were in here the other night actually, and they come in and they were putting some music on. It was all like Spice Girls and stuff, and like Robbie Williams, and I thought the quality of the writing is actually ridiculously good.
Yeah,
like
it's
really
more
good songs.
Really good,
it's more. What I like about that era of music and previous to that is there's lots more experimentation within the chords and stuff. Like you listen to it, like the Angels, for example, like the way they move between chords and stuff. Whereas like now you listen to
Guy Chambers, isn't it?
Guy Chambers, Like if you, I like a lot of modern music, I do. So don't get me wrong, but a lot of it does sound the same, and it's because you kind of end up chasing what's already out there, and if what's already out there is 4-chord pop songs, you make more 4-chord pop songs, and you sort of had this.
I think that's a good point actually. Yeah, you kind of don't feel that they were trying to replicate each other. They were just like, this is what I do.
Yeah,
I think it's because they had the confidence, the fact that if you were signed to a major, it would sell.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I suppose you kind of have to fit a mold, and that worked. So we want you to do something in the same vein, so we know it was going to work. You know.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to navigate now. I mean, I
how do you fit into
that? You tell me. I don't know. I still try, and like you'll know this, like from the songs we play. I don't give a fuck about what chord I'm going to go to next if it fits where I want to put the melody. So a lot of my songs don't have the same 4-chord like throughout, because I will want to go and modulate in a bridge and then go to a different place in the chorus. And I'm like, if it serves the melody and gets the point of the story across, I'm going to do it, even though it probably won't get Radio 1 play. You know, like, and just you have to sacrifice. You make stuff because you like it, and then hopefully other people like it off the back of that.
Do you play an instrument yourself? Just a bit of.
I play guitar, bass, drums, and
you do.
I play
bit of an
just a
all-rounder.
few.
Cool.
Proper composer.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I play a few things. I started out as a drummer actually. I
didn't know this.
Yeah, I started playing drums when I was 8. Yeah, so
actually, you might have told me this, but I think we might have been drunk.
Pissed. Yeah,
Really
I started playing drums when I was 8, And then I played like a few gigs with the school band or whatever. And I realised very quickly I would always be sat down and at the back. And I was like, nah, this isn't for me. I'm going up there.
I wish I'd have realised that earlier.
Yeah, so I was like, it's just, I did like it and it taught me a lot, but I found it quite like boring. And you have to be, unless you play something like jazz, as a drummer, it's quite strict.
Yeah.
You know, you are keeping time. You have to be pretty rigid. I'm not really that kind of person. I like to sort of go off the wall a bit. So
yeah, I think that's I can definitely identify with that.
Yeah,
playing bass as well. It's one of the things I had to learn is to rein it in.
Yeah,
because as you know,
what you learned
just
that,
as a human being.
I quite enjoy going off piece a little bit. Is that your phone ringing there?
Popular today.
No interference. One thing I wanted to come to at some point. There was something else I was going to say, but I've forgotten it as usual. So Project Icon.
Yeah.
First of all, how did this come about?
I actually was contacted by the producers on Instagram. And I think they were doing a lot of outreach, so it's not like a secret. Because the show itself wasn't one that you could like line up an audition for. It wasn't like an X Factor type thing. It was a BBC show about up and coming musicians who were already writing and making and releasing original music. So they went out and found people who were doing that and then outreach to them. So they kind of found people in different genres with different looks and ideas and cultural backgrounds, and it was really interesting. And they'd reached out to me, and initially I immediately was like, West looks like a scam. You get the message list. I was like, Project
Buy these followers.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm absolutely not getting involved. And then I had a conversation back and forth. And to be honest with you, I actually said no to doing it originally. I wasn't going to do it because I didn't really want to be involved in a TV show around music. You know the history. Like at one point in a long time ago, I was involved in the X Factor, and I didn't really enjoy the process at all. And at the time, I was so young that I just went along with what the story.
We've already had stories about the X Factor from Katie and from Jazz. On the
pod,
and they both said the same.
Yeah, and I think it was just the culture. It was the time. There was less care about people, and you just you're young and you just go along with it. And it was only in retrospect, like a couple of years after, that I realised how much I really didn't like the process. So when I was faced with, do you want to come and be on a TV show about music? I was like, absolutely not, because of this previous history. But when I'd spoken to them and learned a bit more about the show, because it was championing people who wrote and recorded and produced music and made, it was more about you as an artist than it was about can you sing a Mariah Carey song? It wasn't covers. It was like, can you build a brand? And I thought that was quite cool. So I
definitely a different, fresh perspective.
And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, why not? It's going to be my music. I'm only going to do it the way that I want to do it. I won't say the things I don't want to say or do the things I don't want to do. So I was like, whatever. Yeah. My friends were like, just do it. Get a bit of exposure.
Might as well.
Whatever. Just be on the telly, innit?
How did you find it? Yeah. The experience?
It was good. It was good fun. It was a lot different than the previous one, which was what I was hoping for. And just enjoyable, fun. I met a lot of cool people. Hung out with Becky Hill, who's a fucking legend.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, I met Jason Derulo, and then we met Ollie Alexander from Years and Years. Just like cool people who all had a fresh perspective, and they all have different walks of life and how they got into music. So for me, it was quite expansive just to be around others and
do you feel you learned a lot?
Yeah, I do feel like I learned a lot. But also, what it did was fortify what I believed about myself already. Like, what I do, I enjoy, and I don't want to change that for the sake of the industry or for the sake of another person or for the sake of...
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it was more of that. I was just like, that's what I took away from the thing. Because I think it is so easy, and I have done it in the past as a musician, to be swayed by peers or a manager or a label or fans even, and then you end up making something for them and you put it out and you're like, I don't even like it. Why did I put that out?
I mean, we've had this chat before. I mean, like people like authenticity, and the only way you can get that is by just doing stuff you want to do. So otherwise you do get chucked into the category of, oh, well, you sound like that or you sound like that. But kind of going back to them, the 90s and stuff like we're just talking about, they just did stuff because they wanted to do it. In fact, I started watching that Robbie Williams documentary. Have you seen that?
I've seen a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes, but it's actually really interesting.
I really like to see that, yeah.
I always kind of thought that like Guy Chambers done a lot of the writing and...
as I said earlier, it was Guy Chambers, right?
Yeah, but actually, it was pretty down the line, and
Really?
he would write a lot of lyrics and where it went and stuff. Robbie Williams, yeah, and it was pretty 50-50 with what they'd done.
That's really interesting.
And in fact, part of the reason that he they kind of broke up as a writing duo is because Robbie Williams kind of wanted more control.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to do stuff, and Guy James would be like, "No, I think we should go this way." And then because it's him, and he's selling his own music.
Yeah.
If he's being restricted,
Yeah.
then he's just like, I don't want that anymore. So they kind of had a bit of a.
Was that around the time he started doing his swing stuff? Was it like that kind of time?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure about the sort of time frame. I mean, obviously, Angels.
Yeah.
In fact, Angels was the one that set them off because they went to America, and nobody really knew who he was, and he was just doing like these sort of fairly small shows. And then they dropped Angels, and everything changed. Like he started going from smaller, couple of thousand capacity venues to hundreds of thousands.
Now a song can do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the insecurity in him at that time, and he was just completely off his head on drugs and drink and stuff. Really interesting to watch.
I'll definitely be watching it. Yeah, I didn't even know that was on.
Yeah, it's a good watch. It's a good watch. You can see in that they start to break down their relationship, because I think a lot of people said that he doesn't write his music, so he wanted to sort of like break away to prove that he can, and he does. And I do actually rate it when musicians talk about the fact they write their music. And like Taylor Swift, for example, I like that she makes a point of saying it all the time, because it's so easy for people to assume that people don't write their music, and there are so many talented artists who write and produce and oversee everything. So I think it's good to make a point of it, and to have people know that you do the stuff, because it takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes a fucking load of work to learn an instrument, or learn to produce and learn to do those things, and when you don't get credited for it, it hurts. So I can imagine
see someone like Damien Hirst, right?
Yeah.
Releases installation or whatever it is. I probably called it the wrong word, sorry. And, but you know what I mean? You wouldn't see him go, well, I kind of did a little bit of it.
Yeah.
He's going to want to say,
Michelangelo being like that, the David sculpture. Oh, I did a little bit. Like I did the whole fucking thing. Why not?
I'm just going to be humble.
Yeah.
The Sistine Chapel. I didn't do the cutting in. Someone else did that.
Yeah. I didn't build the ladder.
Like it's a painters and decorators.
Just someone like with a bit of gaffer tape, What's the code on this one?
Grab a tea.
No, my back's gone, mate. My back's gone.
I just got images of him in his van.
Yeah, mate, yeah.
A white van man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but that's what you see. But I think the reason why people should make a point of how much they actually put into their own music is because you do see on the credits of some tracks. I mean, there's a Beyonce song. I think it's a Beyonce song, and there's probably like 4. I think it's "Who Run the World." Who run the world?
Yeah.
On that track, there's probably like
What's that song?
I think there's like 9 credits of writers on there.
Yeah. I think there's more than that.
It's like it's literally "Who Run the World." Do you know what I mean? How many people does it take to write?
Am I right in saying that sometimes if it's a writer's camp or something, there's a lot of people in the room, they just assign it to everyone anyway?
Yeah, well, it can be that, but also it could have changed hands, or also like in a lot of worlds where you, like Nice Day, for example, I wrote the chorus to that 8 years ago, and if for some reason I got a job but I hated it, I could have passed it over to another singer or songwriter who wanted to do it, and then would have done this, and then they've given it to someone else. By the time it's gone through its life, it's been in 8 people's hands.
It's really funny because
obviously
I don't really understand that part of the industry, and it's really funny because whenever we talk and you send me stuff to like play over or whatever, like I don't really know much about the history of the song or whether it's, like you say, changed hands, what's gone on, anything that's gone on like that, and to learn about it now is quite eye-opening actually. It's quite cool.
I think especially in those big worlds, like when they're after big hits, you need to make sure that it is the best it can be. So they will run it by the best verse person in LA, and then send it up to like the best person with the tag and the hook. And if there's a producer in the room who turns around and goes, you should actually change it so it does the melody like this at the end and probably use that word. Bam, that's a writing credit. So
that's mad.
Yes.
Did you find that you were working with these people in LA after the Project Icon thing?
Yeah, so I went
Jason Derulo, right?
Yeah, I went and worked with Jason Derulo out there, and I worked with a bunch of other producers and writers. And that was fun because I do a lot of writing and producing on my own. So I spent a lot of time on my ones going mad in my studio, a bit cabin fevery. But so it was really enjoyable to go out and work with other people and bounce around the ideas.
How did you find doing that? Like turning up to a studio with Jason Derulo. Did you find it sort of quite intimidating, or was it? I'm quite comfortable with working with someone of that kind of stature.
Well, I went to his house and he had a studio in his house. So already, it put me on the back foot, I'll tell you why. Because he lives at the top of Beverly Hills.
Right.
And it's got the biggest, bestest view of LA. And I had no Wi-Fi, I had no battery, and I had no access to using my phone. So I'd gone into a wine shop and I'd said to the guy, my phone's about to die. He was like, okay, we can charge it. And I was like, can I hotspot to your phone, your phone, please? And he was like, yeah, sure, why? I was like, I need to get an Uber to Jason Derulo's house. He was like, get out of my shop.
As you do.
As you do. And he was obviously like, this guy's tapped. He's just wandering around LA, whatever.
Trying to find Jason Derulo.
Yeah, trying to find Jason Derulo. He's a mad fan. Anyway, I got in this Uber and he was like, where are you going? I was like, I'm not going to say it again because everyone thinks I'm mad. So we got all the way to the top. I got out of this Uber. His house was massive. I actually thought it was a hotel. And I got out of the Uber, shut the door, and I turned to the Uber, had a massive dent in the back. And I was like, this is my life, and this is your life. But to answer your question, he's a really nice guy. And even though his house looks like a hotel, he's pretty down to earth, and he really enjoys the music and music creation. So I wasn't intimidated in that way, but it just was like a culture shock. It's not very British, is it? We're sort of attached houses, little streets with little
very
doors.
Reserved.
Yeah, and then there's these big plots of big land out there.
I remember the first time I came to record with you.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and I'm such an idiot, as many people, it's well documented. And I was looking around and there's all these sort of album art of Roxy music on the cushions and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it must be a Roxy music fan here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Simon looked at me. I love Simon, by the way.
Shout out Simon.
We need to get him on at some point.
You should.
But he says to me, oh, yeah, it's Brian Ferry's studio. And I was like, oh, I feel like it's right.
Yeah, it's Brian Ferry's studio. Brian Ferry lives above. So
Yeah.
he's
Oh, does he really?
Mad.
Well, he's got a flat above, so he may or may not have been there when we were there. Yeah.
Well, I've heard me going.
Yeah.
Although I imagine it's better soundproof than that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So in comparison, though,
Yeah.
it was just like this. It was a really nice. I mean, obviously, it's a lovely studio with state of the art equipment and stuff. But it's very English, isn't it? Compared to that kind of big LA kind of thing.
Yeah. It's nice to experience it all and work with different people. And this isn't to dismiss anyone, but some of the best melodies I've heard have come out of people that don't consider themselves songwriters. Like some of my friends who write songs and can kind of play guitar. I sat with two of my friends the other day at one of their houses, and these two girls who both play guitar and sing, they started playing some of their songs, and I was like, fucking hell, it's good job you don't. It's a good job you're not in my industry, because I wouldn't have a job. I was incredible. And I was like, wow, I almost underestimated some of my friends who have the ability to do this. And then I mean, a lot of the bigger artists that I've worked with, fantastic songwriters as well, but just because someone has had more time in the press or has a bigger house or whatever, doesn't mean that you need to be more intimidated by them. It just means they found their success, right?
Of course, I've always found, you should always back yourself, because you're in that position for a reason. You don't just get to Jason Derulo's house because you fancy it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say because you fancy him.
Oh, you fancy him?
You might end up there if you fancy him.
Fancy him, yeah.
If you say the right thing, stroke his arm.
But you know what I mean? You're there for a reason. It's just like when you get on a really good gig. It's like, I've just happened upon this. I've spent many years getting to this
and
point.
you really have grafted.
You deserve to be there, yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I know a lot of people have. But I've been there for a lot of the graft, and it's hard work, huh?
Yeah, it is hard work. Yeah, it is.
It's tricky.
Why do we still do it? I don't know.
But
we just love it. It's a lot of graft. But when I wrote a lot of terrible songs to be able to write a good one. And
something Ed Sheeran talks about, is it?
Is it? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's the
about
tap,
getting all the muck out of the tap.
Yeah,
I think you should have told me this.
It probably was. Yeah, I did like that quote. But it's true, isn't it? You have to, and it's the same with anything. Like, I'm sure that many of the people that paint have terrible paintings, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just
Imagine
assuming.
so.
We never see them, but they will have terrible
Oh,
things.
well, I imagine so. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about as well,
Yeah.
I'm conscious that I don't want to run out of time before I start talking about this,
Oh, yeah.
is so this summer's been pretty mental for you, right? Well, last summer just gone, so 2023, crazy. Obviously, did the competition. When did you record that?
So I won the show in the... Well, we pre-recorded it, so I'd actually won in the December of 2022.
You didn't tell me.
No, I didn't tell anyone. It was a secret, but it didn't come out until the April of 2023. So then I went to LA
because I was in
between.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't tell anyone because I had ended up going to LA in between. And if I had told people that I'd like, they would have put two and two together.
Yeah.
So I had to say I was going to LA to see my friend, even though I wasn't.
Well, just your friend was Jason Derulo.
Well, it wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. Yes, my friend. So it was a mental year, but like great. So we recorded it in the February or March, and then it dropped in the September, I think.
Yep. Then obviously we did Pride.
We did. That was amazing, wasn't it?
Awesome.
Slotted right between Adina Menzel and Rita Ora. It's not a bad place to be, is it?
Not bad. It's not bad.
Lovely little sandwich.
Yeah.
I was having a great time.
I bet he was, mate.
I think I was hammered by
it was a great gig, though, wasn't it?
It was good fun. It was a nice boiling hot day, wasn't it?
It was. And I remember you saying to me afterwards, because it was one of the first Prides you'd ever played, right?
Yeah.
And then we went and enjoyed ourselves second one.
Yeah.
We went and enjoyed ourselves in the crowd afterwards. And you and Valeria, shout out to Valeria and Chloe, who play drums and keys in my band.
Yes, they are awesome.
Were all
I love them.
Hanging out, and we were just having such a joyous day. And you both had said like you'd never really attended a Pride, and it was so nice to be around people who were just sort of happy to be in a crowd and be there, and so accepting. And it's just it is a wonderful place, isn't it?
It was beautiful. Honestly, it was a really wholesome day.
Yeah.
And
until we got absolutely battered.
We got didn't we? I remember. Last thing I remember is being in the bar nearby.
Yeah.
Was it Trafalgar Square?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being in the bar and like just like stumbling around.
Same.
You being like, I love you. And me just like trying not to fall down the stairs. But yeah, no, it was a really wholesome day. And one thing that struck me was how everyone was just everyone just had a smile on their face. It wasn't, and I got the impression it wasn't just Pride in the sense of LGBTQ plus community and all that kind of stuff. It was also just in general. I felt like people were just all wholesome, regardless of their backgrounds.
Yeah.
And it was a really good introduction to Pride for me. I'd played Coventry Pride before, but that was literally a quick gig. We went in and then had to get out soon because we had another gig we were going to.
Yeah,
that was many years ago now. It was about 10, 12 years ago. But yeah, it was genuinely brilliant.
Yeah, it was good.
But you also did Big Weekend. I can't speak. Big Weekend.
Yeah,
well,
I did the Big Weekend in Dundee in 2023. That was absolutely fucking epic. Yeah, I opened the main stage before Wet Leg, and then the lineup of that day was just incredible. So to be on stage, there was Wet Leg, and then Anne Marie, Becky Hill, Niall Horan, 1975, Lewis Capaldi.
Oh, wow.
And little old me at the beginning. I was like, this is fucking great.
Mad.
Yeah, it was wicked. It was wonderful. And Jonas Brothers as well. I can't forget them.
That was really?
Yeah. It was amazing. And it was like hot, and it was in Dundee. And Scottish people are so welcoming and like just happy to be anywhere as long as they've got a pint.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah. I think we've both experienced the same, haven't we, in Scotland? It's been...
Yeah. I've been to Scotland once.
I've only done it a couple of times.
Yeah. I don't know. I've not played in Scotland. But yeah. A welcoming
the
people.
More north you go, the nicer people seem to be.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Because I came from Cornwall.
It's horrible down there. It's just anywhere out of London, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I mean, on that note, what does the future hold for you?
So 2024, I have vowed to myself will be the year of releasing music because, as you all know, like I do a lot of live. I've always done a lot of live, but the problem is when you're out so much playing all the songs you've written in your bedroom, people at the gigs are like, "Oh, great! Like this is a new song. When's it out?" You're like, "Oh, I don't know actually."
About that,
And then by the time you've thought about making it to put out, you've written 5 more. So I have made a promise to myself and to the fans that I will release music this year. So I have just dropped Nice Day, which people are enjoying, and I'm like really happy about the reception to that. But I'm planning on maybe even around the time this drops, there'll be another song about to come out, followed by another, by another. I'm just going to try and drop one at least a month, every other month if I can, all the way to the end of the year, and then set myself up for maybe going on a tour later this year, if not a bigger one next year.
So it's always important
I'm
to try
game, by the way, just to let you know.
Oh no, I've got a new bassist now anyway. Don't need, you'll be there, my friend.
I'm going to go all, what's the actor's name? Liam Neeson on him. I will find you and I will
just
kill
follow him around the gigs.
You just take me.
Yeah.
Oh no, he doesn't, he does the saving, doesn't he?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm not sure.
Henry doesn't care as long as he's on tour somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Whether he's playing or not.
Just following the tour behind in his car.
But I was going to say, is as a sort of independent artist, it's always important to keep up the releases and on top of what you're doing to just keep that content coming out.
Yeah, it's so mad now. Like the amount of stuff that you are expected to do as an independent musician, because you don't like it used to just be like in Robbie Williams times, I guess. You go and work with someone in the studios, it's paid for. You go like there's a producer, there's a writer, someone's doing the album artwork, someone's doing this, someone's doing the music video, someone's doing the social media and the PR. But as a DIY musician, you were doing all of them, and you have to try and juggle them all and simultaneously do them well, and do them well. And if there's an aspect of it that you're sort of like, well, I don't really want to be doing the social media content, there's some other person who is. So you can't even dip out of one of them, because you just need to.
Well,
even as a musician, it's nuts. I mean, like the work that I do online now compared to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, someone would call me up and say, "Do you want a gig?"
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Yeah, I heard you at the so and so bar."
Yeah.
Now it's like they have to find you through Instagram, and then they want like 10 videos.
And your TikTok needs to have this many numbers of views or something. You feel the pressure of that, don't you?
It's big pressure.
And like, it's pros and cons, isn't it? Because there's so much value that comes out of something like TikTok and Instagram.
Course,
like it's good to be able to reach someone in Argentina. You wouldn't have
been able to. It allows you to have your own
it's cool, but
audience. It allows you to have your own niche.
Yeah, it's just hard to do.
Yeah.
So
it is difficult. How do you use like a schedule, or what do you do to sort of combat that? Do you have a technique that you use, or do you just do it as and when?
just do wing it. Whatever, wing it. It really is like, and I'm pretty sure I have like an overactive, overfunctioning brain. I can't concentrate on one thing if I'm not invested in it at that time.
Yeah.
So I will lend myself to whatever comes up that day, and as long as it's something towards the goal that I'm working on, then it's fine. Like if it's music, if it's production, if it's a bit of video content, whatever. I then will look at things I haven't done in a while and be like, right, I haven't actually posted anything in the last month, so I'll need to get onto that.
It's funny how quick it goes as well.
It is, yeah.
It'll be a month, and you'll be like, oh
is,
shit, like
But it's I mean, I don't have any advice for anyone really, apart from
fucking great way to end.
I've got no advice for anyone. Stop.
Yeah, don't become a musician.
Become a lawyer.
Get into coding, Harry?
But I honestly, I don't have any advice apart from just to keep doing something, and that would be my advice.
Just keep it on.
Just make something, even if it is just one lyric, one line, send one email, do something. And
I suppose there is that thing of if you. It keeps your momentum going. I think above anything else, it's good for your momentum. Even whether you put it out there or not. But if you feel like I've written a new song today, that's another thing I can say I've achieved.
Was it the I can't remember where I saw this. It was another podcast, I think, but it was the British athletics team or something or other, and they said it's 1% better than yesterday.
Right.
If you could do one thing that's a progression on from yesterday, then you're good, basically.
So you just got to keep going.
So I was distracted by that squeak.
A giant mouse has entered the building.
But yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, there are no mouses in this mice. There are no mice in this
establishment. No mouses were harmed in the recording of this session.
We don't want to give them a bad reputation, do we? No. Cheers, by the way. We just soiled your reputation. But thanks for letting us use you, man. It was a door.
It was a door.
It wasn't.
And also, no doors were harmed in the making of this.
No doors were harmed either. It wasn't a dormouse. That's a bad joke, isn't it? That's terrible.
I enjoy it. See, the longer I'm around you, the more I remember your
why
you're
see
not
you
coming
very
on
often.
tour. No, this is why I need you. I need you
to feel better about
to bring
yourself.
some light to the
It's
day.
just there for morale. There's nothing else.
Just let's all laugh at Henry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So going back to it, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Where can we catch you online?
The best place to come find me online if you are like interacting is at Instagram or TikTok, just Dylan and the Moon. And then if you want to check out the music, you usually just point to Spotify.
Can I just ask, where did the Moon bit come from? Why the Moon?
So the reason I did that was obviously because I used to release music under my previous name.
Right.
Lots Holloway. And then I changed my name and became Dylan Holloway. But I found that like in a previous life, everything was so close and personal that I wanted to create like a bit of distance and make it like a project rather than being succinct with my name.
Mm-hmm.
My bills come through and it's like from Barclays, it's like Dylan Holloway. And I was like, you know what? I also wanted not to just be a name on a festival lineup, like a Niall Horan, Harry Styles, Dylan Holloway. Because I find you can't really, from my name, you might not know exactly what type of music that is. And I wanted just to make a project like Vampire Weekend was originally like a solo sort of project, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I thought like I used to listen to a lot of like Chuck Berry or Bob Marley and the Wailers as a kid, I felt like
Wayless
having
stuff,
something and the was quite cool. Florence and the Machine and
yeah.
So it's just and the Moon, and I was just obsessed with the Moon as a kid. Genuinely, I was like,
and now you got the cherries.
And the cherries, yeah, that was like an accidental piece of joy.
I
got a little cherry tattoo. I was making a logo, so Dylan and the Moon, and I'd originally put like 2 little crescent moons in where the O's are, and then I was like, I wonder if I could just put something else in there, and I whacked in this like sexy pair of cherries, and I was like, I actually really like it, and they're kind of like fun and cheeky and sweet, sexy, and I was like, wow, it's me. That represents me, right? I don't know. This is me. This is me.
Don't mind if I say so myself.
Whatever. Who's going to if I don't? I was just like, it's quite cool. It's quite playful, and it's just like kind of eye catching. So I was like, fuck it, just do it.
Yeah, and I had to wear that cherry shirt.
You did. You did. And you looked great.
Thank you. I appreciate it, but I liked it. I get all my style tips from Dill.
Yeah.
So every time we do a gig, it basically consists of me going to you, Dill, what should I wear?
What should I wear today?
Literally dressing me.
But it's good. I like it. We do it with the band, don't we? Like,
it's good fun.
It is good fun.
I actually really enjoy it.
In the dressing room, I'll just turn up with like a big old suitcase.
Yeah, because
it's like a dressing up box. Everyone's just like getting my stuff.
Yeah, but you
on
get a chance to be
cool.
somewhat like
cooler,
not someone else, but cooler. But you get a chance to be a more exaggerated version of yourself, and it's actually really fun.
It is,
and as musicians, we don't do that, do we?
No,
we never, not. Unless we're dressing up for a function and we're in a suit, which is let's face it, that's not exactly
boring,
creative, is it?
No.
Yeah.
You never get a chance to really do that. So it's kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah. We need to get back on the road, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do. I'm itching to do it.
You're dropping hints. I get it.
Yes. Come on, it's gonna happen.
Yes, it is.
Right. So. From there, I'd say there's not much really more to say other than it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for
As
having
always,
me.
mate.
This has been really enjoyable. Yeah,
thank you.
really
And we'll have to
insightful.
get you in again at some point because
Yeah.
there's a lot that we could have spoken about that I have inevitably forgotten.
It's all right. We'll do a part 2.
Yes,
Yeah, part 2.
Part 2 will happen.
Yeah.
Nice.
But mate, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yes. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Cheers. I'll just pretend to get
Just
off.
pretend. Ching ching.
So that brings to a conclusion another episode of the Jam Spot podcast. Much thanks. Many thanks to Dylan and Zimun.
Thank you.
You're on your phone.
Look at this. No, I'm filming you. Sorry, everyone. I was filming Henry doing his thing, and I forgot that I'm also supposed to be doing my thing. Thank you very much for having me on the episode today.
That's right, mate. It's a pleasure. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, it was good.
Man of many words, I read.
No,
as usual, you can find us on all the usual platforms. So it's at the Jam Spot Pod. That's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Was Twitter, but we're suspended. We're still in VAR review. Click like, subscribe, all that shit. Do it, please. We would very much appreciate it. That was it. Another thing. We've had quite good feedback on the last episode where we did, not last episode, but a few episodes ago where we did the stories. Mm-hmm. So we would like to do another one again soon. So if you're a musician, or it could be anything to do in the music industry, you can be an events booker, you could be a promoter, that is an events booker. You could be a producer, you could be what other things?
Yeah, musician,
you could be a cleaner,
singer,
you know what I mean?
cleaner.
Like we don't care where the stories come from, we just care about the stories. So send them in. And you could do that on the socials, or there's an email as well, which we'll put below. Mm-hmm. And we'd love to do another one soon, probably with some guests, some funny mates of ours, or something like that.
Yeah, we've got some.
That sound good?
We know some funny people, don't we?
Yeah, definitely funnier than me.
Funnier than you and me, yeah.
Until then, have a good one and
Drive safe.
drive safe.